Hi, it's Laura at Aquamarine18. Thanks for stopping by my channel today. I am here with a video in the 31 Days of Witchcraft series, and today's question is for day 22. I will link, of course, as always, to Heather Carter's video below with all of the prompts, so you can check those out if you haven't had a chance to yet. So, day 22's question is ancestor worship a part of your practice? Why or why not? So, I will say that worship as a word is not one that I use in the context of my practice or my beliefs at all. I know that this may not be, 100%, in accordance with the dictionary or anything like that, but worship very much for me has connotations of deity and calls back to Catholicism, which I was raised in. So for that reason, worship is just not a word that appeals to me, or that feels relevant to me, I should say. In the context of my practice, which doesn't involve deities, as I've mentioned before. I do really like the language of veneration, though, and the idea of ancestor veneration. And veneration in the Random House Dictionary is defined as to venerate, rather, is to regard or treat with reverence, to revere. And so I would say that, to some degree, ancestral veneration or reverence of ancestors is a part of my practice. It's not something that I've engaged in too much in any big elaborate ways. I will say that for me, just before I say anything else about my practice, I will say for me that ancestors is a language that encompasses a lot, right? So not just blood related ancestors, whose epigenetic memory I carry, if you will, but also, to me, ancestors can be, intellectual ancestors, political ancestors, cultural ancestors, queer ancestors, not just the biological family, right? So thinking about that in a broad kind of way, and thinking in terms of treating ancestors with reverence and with respect, that is a part of my practice, and it's usually fairly simple. It's things like keeping special things that belonged to grandparents who have passed on. For example, like my grandma's ring I have that I wear and cherish, or things that have belonged to different relatives like that, as well as photos and displaying photos on sacred space of ancestors, both, biological family ancestors, but also, photos of, I have a photo of Pamela Coleman Smith as a kind of divination ancestor, or of Emma Goldman as my, anarchist influence. I also visited Emma Goldman's grave, and some graves of some historical anarchists. I took a trip for that. And so that was a part, that's something that I can think of actually in terms of ancestral veneration, right? Making that trip to pay respects, and paying respect to my own family members as well who have passed. I would also include, part of ancestral veneration for me would be things like my having traveled to Europe to see some of the places that my family had lived before they were in Canada, which was, my family hasn't been in Canada that long. So going to visit those places, some of which are still populated by, relatives of mine, and are places that my ancestors lived, is something that's important to me. And I want to spend more time doing, once we can travel. It's difficult, in that sense that, I don't have knowledge of some parts of my family going back very far, and that's for a few different, reasons that are difficult, that I don't really want to say too much about here, but that's hard. But I do think, for me, there is something to even just, acknowledging ancestors in a general sense, or expressing, gratitude to my ancestors in a general sense, even if I don't necessarily, know everybody's names. That's okay. It's, I wish I did. I wish I knew more, and I'm working on that, but it's hard, and there are barriers to that, and I know that I'm not alone in that experience either. So I feel like I don't have a ton to say on this prompt that's going to be particularly interesting, but is ancestor worship a part of my practice? I would say ancestral veneration rather than worship is a part of my practice, though it's not, I wouldn't say that it's necessarily, incredibly central to my practice, but it is something that I think is important. So I'll leave it there. I'm, of course, interested to see how other folks take up this question and talk about their practices, as always. So I'll look forward to the discussion, and I'll see you tomorrow for the next installment of 31 Days of Witchcraft. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day. Bye.